So Monday Night Raw ended with Dean Ambrose standing tall with John Cena, and from this they are presenting us with the top babyface role, which will be given to Dean Ambrose whilst Roman Reigns is away getting repaired from his hernia injury. Yes, at the end of Monday Night Raw, we were presented with a switch of roles. Dean Ambrose is replacing Roman Reigns in that top babyface role, whilst Roman Reigns is away getting repaired, of course, from his injury that he suffered only just at the weekend. So it seems like Dean Ambrose was just replaced Roman Reigns on this ending of Monday Night Raw this week. I wouldn't be surprised if the only thing they did was change the name from Roman Reigns to Dean Ambrose, and it does seem like that's where they're going with this. Over the next few months, they are going to push Dean Ambrose to the stars and do exactly what they were planning to do with Roman Reigns, but replacing it with Dean Ambrose. And they certainly need that. With Daniel Bryan being out of action, CM Punk gone forever, and also Roman Reigns getting injured at the weekend, Dean Ambrose was the obvious choice to replace Roman Reigns here, and that's what they're seemingly doing with this, and they don't know when Roman Reigns is coming back, and Dean Ambrose easily enough has taken his place, ending Monday Night Raw, of course, with John Cena gaining all the momentum at the end of the show this week. What did I think of the show this week? A pretty decent Monday Night Raw, comparing it to a majority of shows we've seen over the last couple of months. Putting it up against most of the Monday Night Raws this year, it certainly would be in the top bracket for a decent Monday Night Raw. Nothing too special, but certainly helped me erase a bad memory from WWE Night of Champions. It certainly needed to be a decent Monday Night Raw. Anything less than what we got here would have been a huge disappointment, but I think that they did deliver in the end, and it did help me forget about the poor pay-per-view that was given to us on the Sunday night. So it was started off with a really awesome, great promo from Dean Ambrose. Obviously, Dean Ambrose having a lot to say, and actually joined forces with John Cena for a majority of the show tonight because they had a common enemy, Seth Rollins. They both wanted to take Seth Rollins down. The story behind this was pretty much what they did at the Night of Champions pay-per-view the night before. I was a huge fan of the Dean Ambrose promo. The fans were certainly into his promo, but when John Cena came out, it seems like he sort of killed the promo a little bit. It did feel a bit dead. His lines were quite poor and immature. They didn't really show much impact on me whatsoever. I didn't really feel anything towards what John Cena was saying. But I did feel like the Dean Ambrose promo was absolutely brilliant. Very good. He's very unique on the mic. Very powerful with his words. Very emotional. And I did think this was a very good way to start Monday Night Raw. The guy that would possibly take Roman Reigns' place while he's out, you would have to start with Dean Ambrose here, obviously with that huge pop, and obviously cementing himself as one of those top baby faces for the next couple of months. Good promo by Ambrose, ruined by John Cena. The Authority ended up interrupting it in the end, so once again, another segment of Monday Night Raw that kicks off the show, which does involve the Authority. But I did think this was quite explosive, going out into the backstage area with obviously the handheld camera, made it look very legit by the WWE. Looked very cool. Ambrose and Cena both chasing Rollins. He did escape in a car, which was obviously planted there. You could question the legitimacy of the car being planted there, which didn't really feel that legitimate, but it was a pretty cool segment, an explosive way to start Monday Night Raw. And we obviously got two matches which would be carried out further on in the show. Obviously Kane and Ambrose, and John Cena and Randy Orton. Two big matches which we were going to get later on in the show, and I wasn't going to complain too much about them announcements. A pretty explosive way to start the Monday Night Raw this week, and obviously you had pretty much the top stars all kicking off the show at once. Pretty good start to Monday Night Raw, getting a thumbs up from me. Obviously, once again, we do get The Miz versus Dolph Ziggler, and I was hugely shocked by Dolph Ziggler once again winning the IC Championship. They are playing hot potato with this title, but a lot of people are complaining about that, but I think that the matches between Ziggler and The Miz have been very intense. They've been very entertaining, and it's actually bringing some competitiveness back to the Intercontinental Championship. There's been far too many irrelevant feuds which feel a bit dead and pointless, but Ziggler and Miz, every match they have, the title changes hands. So obviously, every match they have, it feels like there's going to be a title change and something exciting is going to happen in the Intercontinental Championship division. And I have no problem about that. Way too many feuds in the mid-card position at the moment to go away. They get wasted. Obviously, the Sheamus and Cesaro feud has pretty much done that. Once the match ends, the feud is gone, and the feud meant nothing. But obviously here, it's carrying over for the next couple of months, and it's very intense. It means something. The titles change hands a couple of times. The matches are very competitive, and it's the first real relevant mid-card feud we've really had for a very, very long time. People are complaining too much that we have irrelevant mid-card IC title matches, but when the title starts changing hands too many times, people get irate about that and complain that the belt is losing its legitimacy. But don't you feel like these irrelevant feuds are meaning the belt's losing its legitimacy rather than having the title change many, many times? I feel like the belt feels more legitimate when it's changing hands like this, just between two people, rather than having a United States title belt sat on Sheamus for months on end, meaning nothing, and none of the feuds really progressing in the end. So I felt like this was a very, very good idea to do. Dolph Ziggler, people thought he got bullied last night. What the hell? Dolph Ziggler, his push isn't over. He's now the IC champion once again. And this was retribution for Dolph Ziggler. I love the storytelling in this. The obvious ending to this match was a roll-up with the tights. And that's exactly what they did. They did exactly what The Miz did at the show last night at Night of Champions, but this time Dolph Ziggler did it. Great storytelling. He got retribution on The Miz. This was a fantastic ending towards the match. I wasn't solely invested in the match at all. I know we've seen Ziggler and Miz go at it way too many times over the past few months, but honestly, it was still a good match. I think the crowd were quite into it in the second half of the match as well, and a very nice way to get a Monday Night Raw kicked off with an IC title match and a title change. Swagger against Bo Dallas, seemingly in the end not really meaning too much, and once again a Bo Dallas and Swagger match which doesn't mean too much, and Bo Dallas really needing a hell of a lot more than what he's getting booking wise. Natalya defeating Summer Rae in a Total Divas match, which in the grand scheme of things isn't going to change a whole lot whatsoever, and nothing really worth noting down. We did get another Ambrose versus Kane match. Yes, we have seen this match multiple times in the past, but the obvious decision here, the predictable decision here, was for Seth Rollins to come out and disrupt the match, which does give some amazing heel heat to Seth Rollins. Obviously, Ambrose controlling a hell of a lot of the match here, gaining most of the momentum over Kane. But Seth Rollins predictably did disrupt the match when the match looked like it was coming to a conclusion. Obviously, that's quite frustrating for fans at home who wanted to see Ambrose pick up the win. And obviously, Ambrose hasn't had a top win for a hell of a long time. Ambrose really needing a top win against somebody who's a past world champion like Kane. Dean Ambrose certainly needed a big win. He got sort of owned last night by Seth Rollins, and he really needed a top win here on Monday Night Raw against Kane, and he didn't get that due to Seth Rollins. So that's going to give some good heel heat to Seth Rollins, disrupting the party for Dean Ambrose after his return. But Dean Ambrose did look very good through this. Kane, not so much, looking very sluggish, very sloppy, especially on the dirty deeds right at the end. Very poor worker by Kane here. I'm just not wholly invested in Kane anymore. I'm really not interested. I do yawn a lot when he is announced for a match on Raw or SmackDown nowadays. I do think his time is up and he should start to filter away from the television scene. Now, that match will get a thumbs up from me because I do think it was an okay, solid match for a Monday Night Raw. And I do think it did build up the match, the feud between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins very, very well. But the next match we move on to was Sheamus and the Usos defeating Cesaro, Goldust and Stardust. Once again, nothing too special in the end here. Obviously, the Usos, the obvious decision here was for them to get retribution on Goldust and Stardust here by pinning them and gaining some momentum over them so we can head towards a rematch later down the line. That's exactly what we got here. We got a cool little finish, a typical Uso finish to a match here, very fast-paced at the end. Throughout the match, it wasn't too great, but but once the finish started going, it couldn't stop, and it was quite entertaining in the end. Obviously, the Usos tried to hit the splash the first time and couldn't do it, but once again, second time lucky, they managed to hit it, and obviously getting the obvious decision by pinning Goldust in the middle of the ring. This was the right decision here. If we're heading towards an Usos rematch against Goldust and Stardust for the tag titles, you want to believe that the Usos are winning it back. So they need all the momentum, especially over Goldust and Stardust. So them getting the pin over Goldust gives them some great momentum heading in towards that rematch, possibly happening at Hell in a Cell. Also, Cesaro and Sheamus, that feud is pretty much dead, so it really wouldn't have made sense for either Sheamus or Cesaro to be involved in the finish here. The next match was a rematch from Night of Champions, and this was an opportunity for Rusev to cement his win over Mark Henry once more. Now, he beat Mark Henry the night before at Night of Champions, but WWE decided to book it once more just to cement that win and give some little bit more momentum to Rusev and to finally finish off Mark Henry once and for all. They did a clever bit at the start here by having Mark Henry cut a promo before the match, which I did think was a pretty good idea because obviously he did look very sympathetic toward the crowd, and they said that they could laugh at him, and this was actually very, very good because it did put over Rusev very, very well, suggesting that he has made Mark Henry look like a crybaby, and he has pretty much embarrassed Mark Henry. And I thought this was a very, very good idea. And then for Rusev to actually come out and have another match against Mark Henry and defeat him in similar fashion, once again, puts over Rusev very, very well, giving him all the momentum. But if I was about to say Rusev, all this momentum he's building up is good, I would have to suggest no. Throughout the match, the crowd really didn't care for it. There was lots of rest holds. It was very, very boring, very dull, and it didn't get any heel heat. Any heel heat whatsoever. The crowd just didn't react to it. It's okay building this guy up, giving him all the momentum to make him a top star. He's young, he's fresh, he's hungry. But if the crowd don't care about him now, are they really going to care about him in 6 or 12 months down the line? Now, he's getting all these wins, he's gaining all this momentum on the baby faces of the company, but he's still not really getting much heat. There was really no reaction throughout this match, or even when Rusev's hand was raised by the referee, me questioning, is Rusev's time finally up? Is he going to get defeated by somebody soon rather than later? The next match will be skipped over, Adam Rose and the Bunny defeating Slater Gator. What the hell was this? The Bunny looks absolutely hideous, and this makes me absolutely embarrassed to watch wrestling at this point. The next match was solid. It was AJ against Nikki Bella, and this was and this followed a promo by Nikki Bella blaming her sister for her interview last night where she pretty much downed Nikki Bella before her match. And the result to the AJ and Nikki Bella match pretty much cemented in my mind Nikki Bella was completely irrelevant during their match last night at Night of Champions. She was not involved during that match whatsoever. She shouldn't have been there. She should have been in the match between Nikki and Brie Bella. She was not involved in that Divas feud whatsoever, and her involvement in that match really shouldn't have happened in the end, and that's cemented here with AJ Lee seemingly just beating her in the end. The promo beforehand by Nikki with Brie Bella was awful. She has no expression in her voice. It feels really, really fake and staged. And it feels like the writers don't care either. They don't give them any good lines whatsoever. This feud is absolutely boring as hell. I, for one, just want to see Nikki against Brie at a pay-per-view. I don't really care about the segments. I'm already kind of interested in the match. I want to see how two sisters will put it on in a match. But any of the segments they don't do anything for me whatsoever. I think I'll be interested to see the match at a pay-per-view, but the segments aren't going to change my mind. I think I'm already invested in the idea of the match. I'm not necessarily interested in the story or the feud behind it. I just want to see what kind of match they'll put on. So I am interested in the actual match idea, but the feud just is absolutely embarrassing. And Nikki also was trying to convince maybe the fans at home that she really was involved in the match at Night of Champions. She was trying to suggest that her sister put her off from winning. She shouldn't even have been in that match. She should have been facing Brie at Night of Champions. And lastly, the match between John Cena and Randy Orton once again was a safe bet by the WWE to have these two main event their Monday Night Raw after Night of Champions. A good idea for them. Obviously, a guaranteed good main event to bounce back from Night of Champions, which had a poor main event. It was a solid match which lasted around 15 minutes. And obviously, the outcome of this match was quite predictable, with the Authority once again disrupting another match. So we had a roll-up, a couple of unclean finishes during this Monday Night Raw. A little bit too many for my liking, and I didn't like how the main event tonight ended exactly how the main event ended at SummerSlam, with Seth Rollins attacking John Cena. But what happened after this was absolutely epic and was probably one of the best segments which we have seen on Monday Night Raw in a very, very long time. Obviously, Kane tried to pick up the cinder blocks, which were hidden under some kind of sheet. He picked it up, and then Dean Ambrose was hidden inside the box, which was absolutely amazing. I, for one, was predicting we would see Dean Ambrose at the end of the night, which just kind of once again questioned the legitimacy. How the hell did he get outside that door? We all knew he would at the end of the night, but we were still questioning at the end, how the hell did he manage to escape that room and get outside? Very unlegitimate thing to happen, but I'm glad they did do it, because this made for a very, very awesome, unique, explosive, memorable, interesting way to end Monday Night Raw. And once again, Dean and Seth are involved in a very, very cool segment. Every segment they have is very unique, interesting, cool, all those great words. This was an awesome way to end Monday Night Raw. Very memorable, very awesome, very, very cool. Builds their feud very, very well. Seth Rollins, once again, just escaping. And they looks like Seth Rollins and Dean are heading towards Hell in a Cell for a match, which will be very, very interesting. So I was kind of annoyed that John Cena was using Dean Ambrose's popularity to get over, but Dean Ambrose looked great, and he ended Monday Night Raw with the top babyface of the company, John Cena, seemingly looking like Dean replaced Roman Reigns at the end of this Monday Night Raw. But I don't have a problem with that, because I prefer Dean Ambrose over Roman Reigns, and I'd wish that would have happened at the start of Roman Reigns' push. But this was a decent Monday Night Raw, which will be getting a 7 out of 10 from me. A solid main event, followed by Dean Ambrose standing tall at the end, replacing Reigns in that top babyface role. A lot to talk about. Sadly, Brock Lesnar wasn't on this Monday Night Raw, which is a huge shame, but hopefully he is on next week's Monday Night Raw, and we can look forward to a great Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and hopefully we can forget about Night of Champions. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Spite your hair.